Hey guys, it's Eros here. As many of you know, I've been serving as the senior mid lane coach under Neace for his recent bootcamp. Over the past few weeks, I've been coaching people on how to play mid lane, and this is one of our sessions. The session covers key important topics such as 1. How to ward, 2. Slow push versus hard push, 3. Scuttle fight and priority, 4. When you should recall, 5. Playing with your jungler, 6. Roaming, 7. Phantom pressure, and 8. Using your summoner spells. I hope you enjoy.
One key area for warding is, at the 1 minute 20-second mark, just 10 seconds before jungle camp spawns, as a mid laner, you want to try to get a ward into the enemy's jungler's raids. So if you're on the blue side, that would be this here. If you're on, the red side, it would be this area here. Cool. Now, the reason this is important, I know I asked you guys and you said jungle pathing, and that's true, right? If you know that the enemy jungler started on red side, and he does his krugs, he pats back down here, your ward will catch it, and it'll let your jungler know, and it'll also let your entire team know that the jungler started on red side and he's going to be pathing here next. Okay, so that means he hasn't gotten his blue buff and he's going to path there next. That's usually the most basic path for the jungler. And why is this important for you? Well, now you'll know where you can possibly get ganked from. You're mostly going to get ganked from around the 3-minute mark on this side, right? Because he's going to be here. He's going to probably try to come from here, come from there, wherever, right? You know where he's going to be coming from. Sorry, 1 second here. And this also helps your jungler know. So let's say your jungler started on red side himself. That'll let your jungler know that he most likely will not have a fight for the scuttle crab, because he's going to path towards, he's going to get these crubs, go to raids, do his whole camp, and he'll be able to get the scuttle. And it most likely will be uncontested because the enemy jungler will most likely be going for this scuttle. Okay, if your jungler is a better early game champion, let's say he's like a Lee Sin and they're playing like a Fiddlesticks or something, right? Pardon? Go ahead. There was a question.
Oh, I was saying like invade with the jungler.
Yeah, exactly. They can invade, right? Like if your jungler is a Lee Sin, this ward will help him so much if it's against the Fiddlesticks, because this Lee Sin might actually want to contest the scuttle, right? Lee Sin has so much power in the early game that he wants to do this 1v1. So this information is so crucial to know on where the enemy jungler is pathing, just tracking them down. And it not only helps you as a mid laner to avoid ganks, but it'll help your jungler. And honestly, by helping your jungler, you're basically helping everyone, right? If your jungler is ahead of their jungler, he can provide more ganks. He can get more resources that you need to make the game successful. Okay, so that's one key word in the early game that I really recommend everyone does, and I've been seeing it so far. So good job, guys. The next thing I want to do is talking about warding in general. Okay, so give me 1 second here while I transfer my screens. So this is a key map that it's just a general map found. Actually, before I even get to this, I'll do a very clean layout. As a mid laner, let's say you're starting on the blue side. Okay, you're starting on the blue side here. What I see a lot of people doing is they'll drop a ward here. Okay. Now, what's the problem if you drop a ward here?
By the time you're getting ganked, like it's already too late. Like it's right next to you.
Yeah. So 1, it's too late. Okay. 2, it doesn't cover a lot of the areas, right? What if their jungler goes around and ganks you like that, right? It doesn't capture it. So, in my opinion, and everyone may have their own opinions on what are optimal warding spots, but a great warding spot is this area right here, which is just on the edge of the river and the edge of this. And the reason this warding spot is so good is if let's say the top laner ganks down, this ward will most likely catch it if they pass through this bush. If let's say the jungler is, sorry, this could also be the jungler and top laner. Let's say the jungler wants to finish krugs, goes around, this ward will catch it. Let's say he goes this way, this word will catch it. Let's say he goes this way, this word will catch it. Let's say he goes this way, this word will catch it, right? It captures every possible gank that the jungler could do on this side of the map, in my opinion, okay? And that's why I think this ward is so great, and a lot of people should, prioritize warding here rather than just this push right here, which basically only gives you one perspective, okay? One possible gank avenue. And on the contrary, if let's say you're on the red side of the map, right? Same thing. You want to drop a ward right here, okay? It'll cover this area off. It'll cover this area off. It'll cover, whatever area off, okay? And not only that, if let's say bot lane is ganking, they most likely pass by this bush, okay? everyone usually passes by this bush to make sure it's not warded or if there's a pink here. This ward generally captures that too, okay, if they're passing by. So that's why I think it's such a great ward, and really underrated ward if you get that in here, and it'll basically cut off every avenue. And so that's what I recommend for your general warding totem. In terms of, pardon, go ahead.
I have a question. For that ward placement, should you place it more where you have more vision towards river, or where you can kind of see that jungler hitting Krugs?
I would no. You're not going to be able to see them doing this. Like that ward needs to be like around here for you to
Right,
do that.
right.
In my opinion, it's just on the edge here. Like anywhere on the edge here, it should be fine.
Okay.
Because it'll capture all this area and it'll capture all this area. Like it'll be like
those are.
right?
If I can.
Yeah.
Those are two different wards, right? So the ward that Eris is talking about, that ward will protect against ganks from everywhere. Where the ward you're talking about, where it's up near the chicken pit, that's more for if you're looking for an invade, or if you're looking for deep vision, or if you're looking to roam bottom through their jungle.
Right.
It's a
Say like
very,
they had like a
very
shakeout
ward.
jungle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if he's got one box and he uses it on chickens,
Right.
then like
Well,
say I'm
like,
Tiana, you can just fucking queue through the wall.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Only do that
Fucking
ward if you
EQ his
have
ass,
the
he's gone.
ability to be more aggressive. Where the Eris
Exactly.
ward is a much more general ward.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
this is a
I'm
general
glad you
ward for-
clarified. Yeah.
Yeah, for ganking, this is more for avoiding ganks. This ward here would be more so like you would want deeper wards if you want vision of the enemy jungler in terms of, can we make plays around this knowing that he's here? I know a lot of people, they might put deeper wards just to avoid ganks, but honestly, if you're trying to avoid ganks, this would be the best because it covers all possible gank spots. If you just want vision on the enemy jungler, like this could be great because it helps you follow his pathing again. Like that's not to say this word is bad. This could be a great word too, because again, it'll help your it'll help your jungler and your laners know where the enemy jungler is and what side they're pathing towards. Right.
Right.
The other thing, if people missed Neace talking about warding this morning, manually casting wards gives you an indicator to show how much vision is actually going to be covered
Yeah.
by the ring, and it really helps for you to know where the exact placement for what you're trying to look to see.
Exactly. So you guys can go into practice tool even and drop a word here, and it'll show you that it covers like a very decent radius, which will help protect against your ganks. Like obviously the loophole for this one is, or like the downside is if they hug these walls around the edges and gank. But generally what I see happening is like if they are ganking, they'll pass by this this pixel bush is what you guys call it, right? To see if there's any vision here or pink words here, and they'll usually pass by that to go through. So in my opinion, like this has a high effective rate, and it's a great warding spot. So going back now, obviously I've talked about great wards for totem. Key warding spots. Sorry guys, 1 second. There we go. If you have a pink ward and you're wondering, what's the best spot to put a pink ward? That always depends. But in the early game especially, what I like to do is if you're on the blue side, I like to drop a pink ward here, okay? In this bush here. And I know what you're saying, people always pass by this bush, it can get wiped out easily. Aren't I supposed to find a pink ward, place a pink ward in a bush that's harder to spot so they don't take it down? Sure, and that's why a lot of people recommend different type of bushes. They might recommend this bush, sure. The reason I like this bush a lot is, look at this, okay? Let's look at the enemy's blue side jungle. If they were to gank you, where can they pass through, right? They can go through wolves down here and give a gank. They can go through blue, gank. They can do Gromp, gank. All avenues, bot lane coming up, gank, right? All avenues, this lane covers, this ward covers, okay? If they were to gank anywhere around this area, this ward will cover it. The only area it might not cover is obviously if the jungler is going through here and then ganking you through lane, but that has really low effectiveness depending on the jungler, right? So, I mean, this ward, in my opinion, is so good because it'll cut off all these avenues, okay? And I know you might be saying, well, what if the red side support decides to go through here and then gank me through there? Well, usually your support should have this push warded anyway. I'm sure you guys see this a lot. Like if you're on the blue side, a support will definitely put a pink here or ward here. This is a very common bush that bot lane is supposed to ward anyway. So those are key warding spots in my opinion, especially for the early game to avoid ganks. Now I know you might be asking, what about the late game? And that's why I have another slide prepared for you guys. Just give me 1 second here.
And also to back up that pink ward, if you don't have a ward in that bush, Neace was showing us today, someone can stand on the left side of that bush, and the whole team could be on the right side of that bush, and you wouldn't see them.
Yeah, for sure.
Like even like right next to it.
Pardon?
The-
Sorry, some.
The bush in the river that he's talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead and ask questions, guys. This is meant to be interactive.
Yeah, sorry, I just joined, so I don't know if this has been talked about. But in another coaching Discord or whatever I'm in, a guy suggested a ward to me that's been really, really, really paying off for me a lot.
Okay.
And I didn't know if you talk about it, but I just wanted to see what your thoughts are about it.
Okay.
Which are like, and it's going to be kind of a vague description, but so like, let's say I'm on blue side, right?
Okay, you're on blue side.
And so in the bot river, so that first little like prong of the wall when you're going to the bot river on blue side.
Here?
The one right above that.
Here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Warding at the tip of that.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already discussed this.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we discussed, guys. If you missed it, key warding spots. Actually, if you're on the blue side, I don't recommend this spot here. I actually recommend the contrary, like this spot. Okay, because if you were to drop a ward here, I don't think that really helps. What if the jungler went from here, along the edges, went into this bush and could still gank you, right? In my opinion, it's best to get this bush warded if you're on blue side here, and then to get that ward that 2300 is talking about in this area here on the edge of this wall, because this will cover up the spots that we talked about on all possible ganking avenues. Okay.
You're gonna wanna put that like little lane weird like wall ward on one side and then the pixel bush ward on the other side with control ward. I'm seeing.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you missed it, 2300, we are recording this session, so I'm going to put up a video and maybe you can recap on the early game.
Gotcha. Thank you.
For now. Yeah, no worries. So the next up is the mid to late game, okay? And this is all possible wardings you can do as a mid laner that'll help you out. First of all, I'm going to go through the aggressive wards, okay? This is if your team has an advantage, you know, you guys are leading, you're always like pushing up on the enemy team and you're confident, right? Key ward spots are obviously the two objectives, the Baron and Dragon, right? You'll see them in red. And other great spots are obviously if you get, let's say, a pink or ward around this area where it'll cover the blue buff and the Gromp and you know, it gets you a nice deep ward, or you know, this spot here. I even like this spot here, to be honest, so I'm not sure why that was in red, but all these deep wards are great, okay? I know the other area is the situational wards where, you know, these are all great deep ward spots. You can get them deep here. It's basically just saying any bushes, okay? I know there's a lot of green dots here. You don't have to listen to all of them. All you need to know really is that deep wards are great for mid to late game, especially if you guys have the advantage and are aggressive. If you guys are playing from behind and are defensive and finding yourselves pushed in, some key defensive wards are obviously in your own jungle. So you might want to place that ward into your own blue buff area, get it in this little bush here beside Wraiths, and you know, even this in this spot here. Okay. Objectives are both aggressive and defensive wards. You should always try to get wards on objectives when you can, because you know they are important. Sorry, I know there was a question coming.
Yeah, I actually like to put my control words in that bush behind both of the red buffs. Like occasionally when I'm like playing in the mid game.
Behind the red buffs. So
yeah.
Sorry, let me get my.
I like to
little
mid game. I like to put like my control
right
word
here?
there, like right on the edge where it'll see part of like if they're coming from Raptors. I like to put it there.
Oh, like right here.
No, like the first one you said, but like right on the edge because it'll see them if they're clipping Raptors. Just
Oh, like right here.
Yeah.
Like right around here, right?
Like
Yeah.
in the like outside, right outside, like right in the bush or right outside of it.
Oh, okay. So in the bush, like a
yeah,
pink
right there.
ward.
I'll put a pink
Okay,
ward there and I'll see it coming.
This is assuming you're blue side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad pink ward. Like I don't like think any of this is bad. Like I know I recommended this area, but like to be honest, in the mid late game, if you're fine with gangster, you have like you see your jungler drop a ward in this instead. Like this is a great place to put it as well, right? Like you said, it'll show.
And these are all situational too, because there are situations where, you know, let's say your jungle is playing top side, their jungle is playing bot side, and you just can't you can't walk to the bot side, you can't get a pink there, and you can't keep it. Then yeah, look for the pink on the top side, and that would be a great spot.
Yeah, that's why these are green, guys. They are situational wards. So whenever you can, get him in. But ideally, look at the red for the aggressive wards and blue for the defensive wards. Obviously, if it's defensive, you're kind of warding off your own jungle, and if it's offensive, you want to go as deep as you can. Okay. And
Question.
I know Racestacks put a video out called Warded in the bootcamp app that kind of goes over these key warding areas, especially as a support, but it's applicable for all lanes, and it basically emphasizes the need to get in deep wards, especially later on in the game. Okay, if you get these deep wards in, the sooner you see the enemy jungler, the better you are. Right? Not even the enemy jungler, the enemy team. The more time you have to make decisions for your team, and the faster you can respond in case of a gank. Okay.
Question.
Yep.
Why the 2 wards in lane?
Okay, so I'm actually gonna go over these wards. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna go over this ward when it comes to roaming. Okay, these are basically meant for This is meant for roaming, and it's called an anti-roam ward. Okay, but I'm gonna go over that later on. So just give me a second. Let me go over a few topics, and then I'll hop into that. Gotcha.
Sorry.
Just remind me when the time comes. No, that's totally fine. It's a great question. Glad you asked that. You know what? I might even talk about it now. Why not? Okay. So a lot of you guys throughout this bootcamp have asked me, hey, I play an anti-roam champion. Like I play a Nivea. If someone like a Ziggs or whatever like pushes into me, sorry, not even Ziggs, a Talon, right? Let's say a Talon quickly pushes into me in roam. I can't follow him. But what am I supposed to do as an anti-roam champion? Okay. One thing you can do is dropping this ward in lane. I know you guys might see it in your games a lot, and you might be wondering, what the hell? Why are they dropping a ward in lane? That's so random. But the reason for this is, let's say Talon is on the red side, okay? Let's say he shoves in his wave, and you're here now collecting this wave. This ward is meant so that if Talon shoves in his wave, he can now decide whether he wants to gank top or bot. He wants to roam top or bot. This ward is called an anti-roam ward because it'll actually show if, let's say, Talon went to the bot side. This ward will like basically show it, right? So it'll give your team the heads up that, hey, Talon is going bot. You can spam ping it now, and that bot gank will be useless for Talon. He's just wasting time. So that's called the anti-roam ward. Okay. And now that we're on the topic of roaming champions to begin with, one thing I want to talk about is what you should do as an anti-roaming champion against roamers, and so because you guys feel useless when you can't follow a roam. So I'll tell you, I know the first thing everyone imagines is, hey, I'm gonna freeze the wave. Okay, I'm gonna freeze this wave. I have this many minions, they have this many, I'm gonna freeze it. He's gonna miss these minions. Okay, that's okay in the instance where Talon hasn't gone bot already. He's just hovering this area looking for a gank. I get that, that's okay. But if Talon actually shows himself in the bot lane, okay, then what you want to do is you want to shove in this wave as fast as you can, okay? You want to hard push this wave as fast as you can. And guys, I know for those of you that were in the mid session before, we saw an instance where this isn't always the case. I'd say this is the case 95% of the time, okay? Where you want to quickly shove in this wave, the tower will hit this, and you can get plates. The tower plating is actually invented by Riot because they brought it into the system to kind of punish roamers, okay? Because if Talon is roaming and you're getting plates, you're getting a lot of gold as well, okay? And he's missing on this wave. Now, the reason I say 95% of the time is your minions actually become stronger if you guys as a team are ahead of the enemy team in levels, okay? Your minions are, I think they level, their strength is determined by the average level of your team. And so let's say you do shove it in. Usually what you expect is the wave to bounce back, but sometimes if your team is really ahead, it may not, just because of how strong your minions are, okay? But again, 95% of the time, this is the right strategy where you would shove in your wave and while he shows himself in the bot lane, and you get plating, okay? So that's for roaming.
Question.
So
yeah.
With the anti-roam ward, isn't it? I watched so much challenger replay from Korea and whatnot. Don't they usually place it a little more towards the tower so they can see if they roam behind those alcoves?
Sure, yeah. So you can put it right here, right? So it would be in between these two, right? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just the tower range so that it doesn't see it.
Yeah, I'd be careful. The tower range for vision, if you go any past these two pillars, the tower will see it. So just be careful about that. But yep, you're right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sorry, give me a second. No, this is what you got. So assuming you're blue side, right? This could be an okay word as well. Okay, right
Mhm.
here, to counteract what you're saying. So yeah, just want to get there. But yeah, that's what Little Dragon is saying. Like, be careful that this tower doesn't get vision of this ward. Yeah. So we'll go on to the next question. If you guys have any questions about anti-roaming, do let me know. But otherwise,
Question?
I'm gonna move on to the next topic. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, so I'm a little new, if you will, so I'm not sure what exactly would effectively define the mid game or the late game. And since every game has a different tempo and pace, because every game is different because it's League of Legends, could you give an effective time frame for when you can tell when is it the mid game, when is it the late game, so that you can know at what time you're going to get the most use out of what wards?
Sure. So, I mean, earlier when I went onto this map and showed these words, this is more so when you're still laning, okay? This is when, bot lane is in bot wave, top lane is in top wave, you're in mid wave, you're still prone to ganks, okay? Mid to late game is when everyone starts rotating around the map. You might find your bot lane in mid lane. They might have taken down a tower and now they're in mid lane and there's sort of a fiesta going on. And, you're not maybe just more so worried about ganks, but more so worried about where they are and tracking if they're trying to make plays, going for objectives, that sort of stuff. So I'd consider mid to late game is when people start transitioning out of the lane phase.
Yep.
And playing towards more so team-based style.
Yeah, there's not exactly a time frame. It's more of a pattern you start to see. You can think about mid game when lane phase is over, and that usually happens after, one or two towers have fallen. People, like, the role assignments start swapping, so you'll see the bottom come mid. You know what I mean? The mid laner will start to catch the side lanes, that kind of thing. That's mid game.
I see.
Okay. Is Lux's Lux's Diegap is still here. I just wanted to make sure that he was still recording this session. Okay. Okay, guys. So that's that. Now, the next topic I want to go into is called slow pushing versus hard pushing. Okay. And I'm sure you guys know what it is. Slow pushing is when, oh, sorry, guys. Give me 1 second here. Oh, what? Okay. 1 second. So slow pushing is when, you're just last hitting minions, basically. Let's say these are your minions. Oh man, this is rough. These are enemy minions. You're sort of slowly pushing in. You do have the minion advantage, but you're still last hitting. And what you're doing is basically waiting for a second wave to come. Okay, these minions are coming. You're waiting for a second wave to come, and you'll create like a big group. Okay, and then you're gonna slowly crash in this wave. And what happens is basically there's two waves under the turret. Okay, that's called a slow push when you're slowly pushing.
So I'd like to ask just everybody, what do you guys think the advantage of crashing 2 and 3 waves is over just crashing 1?
Longer roam timer.
Absolutely. That's the biggest part. You get to do more things.
Yeah. The roam timer for sure is one of the best answers. The more waves the more minions you have crashed, obviously, the longer it takes for their tower to clear it out.
I'm seeing somebody in chat saying die potential. That's good too.
Oh yeah, I should open up the chat here just in case there's any questions. You guys can talk, or you can also feel free to type it in. Okay.
Also, it can help you get more plates.
Yeah, also more plates. And I'm gonna ask you another question. What's another advantage of having more minions? Slow pushing gives you more minions, right? What is the advantage of having more minions than, let's say the enemy mid laner?
Trades. You can win trades with minion aggro.
Yep.
Trades.
That's exactly right.
Especially in the early game, because minions are like champions.
Exactly.
They do more damage than us.
Exactly.
1v2 outplay and get a bunch of spam question mark.
I think it should be pointed out that tower platings get stronger if you're there for a longer period of time. So you should maybe get like 1 or 2 and then like back off, because you're not going to get the third one more than likely.
Yeah, it doesn't like double every plate you take. It doubles.
I think so, and then it resets over time, so you can come back to it later and it'll be no armor on it again.
So the armor and MR of a tower increases by, I believe it's 25 or 50, but I think it's 25 for each champion around the tower. Every plate you take. Okay, so that's why you'll find that when you guys are taking plating, that happens. But I'm going to talk about turret plating later, so let's not get off topic, guys.
Okay.
One thing I want to ask you guys is, when should you? Okay, you guys know what a hard push is. On the contrary, right? Hard push is basically when you're not last hitting. You're just trying to use all your abilities and shove into wave as fast as possible. Okay, that's a hard shove. Now, what I want to ask you guys is when should you slow push and when should you hard push?
Slow push when you want to get like a roam timer off or like a dive or something, and a hard push when you're about to have like a cannon wave and you want to back or something, or you need to rotate right away for something like a scuttle crab.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna add to that. Slow pushing is especially good in the early game. Okay, like you said, at level 3, level 4, you want more minions because if you're trading with the enemy mid laner, you want more minions for them to take more aggro. Okay, at level 3 or 4, your health is very low, and minions play a big part. Okay, I'm sure you guys see that when you trade in the mid lane, minions do more damage sometimes than the champions themselves. Okay, so that's why slow pushing, especially in the early game, is really key. As you progress to the late game, I'm sure like after level 8, level 9, you guys know that champions hit their power spikes and they're able to kind of shove in the wave with 1 or 2 spells. Most mages in the mid lane after they hit level 9 should be able to like one-shot waves. And usually around that time is you'll see a lot of hard pushing going on. Slow pushing is especially good, like you said, for building waves, roaming, and especially in the early game for when you're looking for those trades early and to protect yourself around those dragons. Isn't this lane shot from Earth? I'm not sure, but I'm using it anyway, so that's okay. Okay, so moving on. Next question I want to ask you guys is when should you recall?
Don't you recall when the cannon wave is just leaving the base?
Okay, so I'll ask you. So I know a lot of people say that you should recall after the second wave, after you crash in the second wave. That is the right answer, right? Like you always want to do it on the cannon wave. Whether you do it before or after crashing the cannon wave is usually irrelevant. Either one works. Okay, so if you're still in lane by the time the cannon wave comes, if you want to crash it and then back, that's fine by all means. But what you said is not wrong. Okay, so right before the second wave, you want to shove in the second wave, and your third wave is going to be the cannon wave. Every third wave is the cannon wave in early game, and so once you shove in that second wave, you can get in that back, and the cannon wave comes in. Okay. Ideally, what I personally like to do is crash in the third wave, which is the cannon wave, but either one works. And that's ideally when you should get your recall. Okay. And do you guys know the reason for that?
Because
it gives you more time to actually get back to the base and get back to lane without losing much XP or CS.
Yeah, for sure, right? So it's because cannon waves, they're so hard to kill, especially in the early game. Even the enemy mid laner will not be able to push. Like, let's say you leave a cannon wave. Let's say it's in the middle. Okay, sorry, give me a second here, guys. Let's say the cannon wave's in the middle. Okay, right? They're both fighting. Let's say the enemy mid laner kind of shoves it in. In the early game, it takes him a long time to shove in that cannon wave. Not only that, but when he does shove it in, how many tower shots do you think a cannon can take?
Isn't it like 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think it's 6 or 7.
It's 7.
Yeah, it's 7. Okay, so a cannon can take 7 tower shots. So by the time you go from base to here, which is usually around 30-40 seconds, that cannon can take 7 to 8 shots. First their mid laner has to push it first of all, which takes a long time. Then the cannon takes 7 to 8 shots. You're barely losing this wave. Okay, and that's why they say always recall on this third wave, and some call it a cheater recall when you shove in the third wave and crash it, and that's called a cheater recall. But usually you want to recall on this third wave. Okay. Now, if anyone has,
that's solely just to get an extra item. Like, what if you don't need to recall?
Well, if you don't need to recall, like the whole point is you should to get an advantage. That's why it's called a cheater recall. If you don't, you can always look for roams, or this is the time you would use to get deep wards, go ward, or even roam. Okay, look for ganks, help your jungler. Stuff like that.
Is just like wasted stats pretty much. So you want to recall when you can to get stats.
Yeah, guys, think about it this way, right? If you're crashing in a wave, and you're just standing here doing nothing, what the hell are you doing, right? Sure, you don't need to recall, but what the hell is the point of standing here? There's no point. Okay, you're just dancing, wasting.
I actually wanted to bring up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the difference between standing in vision and standing out of vision is huge. And does anybody know why? So sorry, you guys can answer.
I want to say if you're out of vision, they don't really know where you are. You could be roaming, you could be back, and they have to make a decision based off of the guess.
Absolutely. So if you can't back, but you have a roam timer, you want to go walk out of vision, whether it's behind these pillars by your tower, or even if it's just into the river, and they have to respect the options you have. And then you can pressure the roam, you can pressure a deep ward, you can pressure lots. That's called phantom pressure. You're applying pressure in many places at once because they have to respect all of the options you have.
Especially if you're like Twisted Fate or Talon or something that can just be anywhere in like a second.
Absolutely. And that's why that ward we talked about earlier, that anti-roam ward, that's very, very valuable because it takes away the options they have. So it removes some of the places that they can potentially be in.
Yeah, like guys, for example, we did a VOD review yesterday of Fizz, and I know Harry brought this up. So Fizz, for example, he's going to be looking to sit in this bush, waiting for you to push up, and then, he can get an ult off on you, for example, and just all in you, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Echo. Echo can go in the fog of war, get his W on you, jump in, and boom, you're stunned, and he can probably kill you, right? If he's really ahead or has the damage. That's what he's talking about, phantom pressure as well. Where enemy junglers can just enemy laners even can go in the fog of war and use their abilities to try to catch you out. Okay.
I have another. I'm assuming a lot of this is if you're like even or ahead. What if like you're being very defensive because you're being repeatedly ganked or you're losing lane and you're just under tower trying to get as much CS and EXP as possible while being as safe as you can?
Well, that's what we talked about. That word would be anti-roaming, right?
Absolutely. That is a very, very good defensive ward because you can't stop them from roaming if they're really ahead, but you at least be able to limit the options of where they could be. And you'll be able to, if you have that ward, you'll be able to warn your teammates beforehand. You'll be able to pressure the opposite side of the map. You'll be able to look to punish their play.
That question wasn't towards the ward, it was towards the back timing that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, are you talking about in terms of back timing?
Yeah, so
yeah, well, that's
the
fine.
Third wave and you go back, you get your stacks, but what if you can't?
You still want to back on the cannon wave, right? So even if they crash the second wave into you and you farm it out, and now the cannon wave is walking to lane, you can still back there.
Yeah, like I told you this, right? Here, let me recap. Right? Let's say after the second wave, you duked it out with a mid laner, you cleared the second wave, and now both waves are coming, and you're recalling, right? So here's what happens. When their mid laner shoves in this wave, first of all, it takes him a long time to clear this cannon wave, okay? And when he does do that, once he finally clears the cannon wave and it reaches your turret, this turret tanks the cannon 7 times. All right, the cannon can tank the turret 7 times before it dies, and then there's all the other minions. Okay, in that time, you're still able to come back and miss very few minions. Okay, trust me on this. Especially in the early game, this is important. Always recall in the cannon wave. Okay.
Just something else about like stepping out of vision after you push a wave in. So something good about that too is like if you're playing against like a Fizz, right? If you step out of vision, he has to make that decision of whether or not to hard push and try to like deny you CS. But what you can do if you like step around that corner, his wave clear is his E and it's also his escape. So like you can bait out his abilities when he's hard shoving and then just like all in him immediately. Like if you see his E come out, like I like to play a lot of Zed. I'll just do that all the time. I'll just step out of vision. If he uses his E, I immediately just all in him, and there's nothing you can do.
Yep,
for sure. That's one
a beautiful example. I love that.
Yeah, that's one area I wanted to talk about as well, guys. Baiting your enemy's abilities. So I know I'm moving on to another topic here, but a lot of you guys ask me questions like, "Hey, how am I supposed to trade with this mid laner? Like he beats me down, right?" Well, one thing to do is bait out their abilities. If you're playing against the Zed, let's say you're the Zed, okay? If you're playing against, let's say you're playing against the Zed. And this is you. This is the Zed. Okay? Your jungler is here. You want to bait out their abilities. You want him to use his W, his Q, all that abilities. Once you dodge them, those abilities are now on cooldown. Okay? Not only can your jungler now gank the Zed who has no W and is very easily gankable because he basically let go of his escape. But let's say if your jungler even wasn't there, you could now trade because he has no abilities, okay? That's when you would go in. After you dodge his abilities, after he abuses his abilities, and then you go in. That's why you'll see in a lot of higher elo games where a lot of people tend to hold on to their abilities because if they make mistakes with those abilities, they know that they can just, they might just get wrecked, okay? And that's one thing you guys need to understand is manage your abilities, okay? Your abilities are resources. They have cooldowns, and so you want to be careful when you are using them. I get all you guys want to do is beat them down, show your alpha, okay? I know all you guys are like, I am alpha, eat this Q, eat this W, whatever. but you gotta be careful with it. Some abilities like Zed's W, obviously, you want to be careful because it's used to help avoid ganks. Same thing with LeBlanc's W, stuff like that. Just be careful when you are using your abilities. Okay, yeah. So now I'm gonna go on to my.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you? I really struggle with playing control mages into like assassin matchups or like into Yone or Yasuo. With champions like Yone or Yasuo who have such a short cooldown on their on their Q, how do you? How I don't mean to get ahead of myself. So like, how do you? How do you
play the matchup?
Well, more so like you, like how do you bait out those abilities, or like how do you play those matchups, or like I don't want to get wrecked in that matchup anymore, you know?
Sure. It looked like Lil Dragon was about to talk. Do you want to talk, or do you want me to talk, Lil Dragon? I don't want to interrupt you.
I mean, I'd love to say that I'd love to see a VOD, and we can really dive a little bit deeper into what you're talking about later tonight. But just as a general answer, as somebody who plays a lot of like Orianna and Malzahar, in theory, your range of control as a control mage, your arm of poke should be longer than theirs. So you should be able to poke them down slowly while staying out of their all-in range. And so that matchup, in theory, comes down to, can you stay at the edge of their range poking them down, or can they all-in you first? Right, so that's the idea.
Got it, thank you.
I'm going to add to that as well, just because I know a lot of you guys have these questions who plays champions like Lux, Seraphine, all that in the mid lane. And are always like, how do I counter these assassins who just all in me? Like Zed just has to press R and I'm dead, boop, right? Well, the important thing is to respect your opponent, okay? If you guys watched Harry, he's a Challenger EUN player. He played Anivia yesterday. He did not once cross this line, especially in the early game, okay? Like you can step up to the midpoint, I think, even, but like this line is so crucial. He barely stepped up on this line against a LeBlanc who could easily assassinate him, right? What you want to do as these mages is respect. First of all, keep that distance that Lil Dragon was talking about. You outrange them with, let's say for Lux, for example, your E has incredible range. Okay. The other is when you're standing here, your turret has your back first of all, and there's no way they would all in you in the early game if you're respecting your distance. The other thing is if they are shoving into you as assassins, this makes it so easy for the junglers to also gank them. Okay. So being pushed in is never a bad thing. I know all the time, like some people might think, oh, he's being pushed in, he has no priority in lane, he's shit, whatever. Some champions, it's okay to get shoved in if it means setting up gank opportunities for your jungler. Okay. Just wanted to point that out there for that question, because I know a lot of the time Yasuo might, Yasuo is considered a counter for stuff like Lux and all that stuff. So yeah, just be careful. If Yasuo W's Lux's Q, for example, she has no escape, and Yasuo can just eat through minions and kill her, like that sort of stuff. So you always wanna respect the distance and respect your ability cooldowns. Okay, moving on to the next topic now, guys.
Real quick, I was wondering if I could add to that. Just let me know if I'm wrong. Like I don't play mid, but from Neace's videos, if you want to bait out their abilities, you can also use layering. If you know where they're gonna use their ability, you can sidestep it, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the whole point I was saying. Like, try to dodge their abilities. If you know where they're gonna use it, sidestep, and that's when that's your opportunity to go in, right? They have their abilities on cooldowns, and you should be the one winning the trade in that situation. Okay, so yeah, no, thanks for your input. Now, moving on to the next topic, guys. What I want to talk about is more so playing towards your jungle. I know we missed a lot of topics, but one thing is Scuttle spawns at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. You guys, as mid laners, may not know how important that is. I'm sure you guys have watched pro play where Blabber basically flash and inted for that Scuttle, because for junglers, this means so much to them. Okay, Scuttle gives them 100 gold and it gives them so much experience, and that's why if someone gets double Scuttle, like they feel like so defeated.
It's worth 100 gold. But there's only one, so there's one Scuttle on the side of the map, right? And if their jungle gets 100 gold, that's also denying you 100 gold, your jungle 100 gold. So that's a net swing of 200 gold. If your jungle gets double crabbed at 3 minutes into the game, he's effectively down 400 gold. He's down a kill and an assist, right? So if that puts it into, he's playing down from 0-1.
Yeah. Right? Okay, and now I'm going to continue over there, guys. So as a mid laner, like, you want to help your jungler when you can. Okay, I get that in certain matchups you're against a Lucian, you might not have priority, and that's okay. Let your jungler know, and he can make a decision to instead of fighting the enemy jungler at the Baron scuttle, he might go to the Dragon side scuttle. Okay, it's important to communicate these things. You don't have to type. You can maybe just I don't know. You can ping whatever. But ideally, at the 3 minutes 15 second mark is when these scuttles spawn. As a mid laner, you want to try to get priority. So one thing you could do is do that slow push we talked about, where you get your slow push ready and you can slowly crash it into the enemy mid laner. He'll be stuck dealing with this huge wave, 2 waves, while you're able to help your jungler get this. And he's stuck doing nothing. He can't help, and you're able to help get your jungler ahead. Okay, that's one thing you can do. Again, if you're the one that's being shoved in, you can let your jungler know, and that'll help make his life easier by going through the other side and securing the other scuttle so he's not behind. Okay, so that's called scuttle fights, and the slow push tactic should help you guys there. So that's why I talked about that before. One other thing I want to talk about is leaning towards your jungler. So do you guys know what I mean when I say lean towards your jungler?
It's like towards the bush, or not the bush, but the alcove towards where your jungler is going to be.
Yeah. So again, I'm doing this from the blue side perspective, guys. So let's say your jungler, he's standing right here doing scuttle. Okay. What you want to do is you don't want to play here. Okay. Like there should be no reason for you to be standing here, like on this side of the map. Absolutely no reason. If your jungler is on that side of the map, you should be standing here. Okay. So if anything goes wrong, you can quickly rush him and he can help you out. Okay. Now there is one exception. There is one exception to this rule where it is okay to stand on the other side of the map, and that's called standing on the opposite side when you're actually receiving a gank. Okay, so let's say your Xin Zhao is here. Let's say you have a Xin Zhao here. He's going for a gank around. Okay, he's going for a gank around. Where do you think? Like, why do you think? Actually, no. You know what? I'll tell you. I'll tell you guys. If you stand here, the enemy mid laner will usually stand like directly opposite to you. So if you're standing on this side, the enemy mid laner is usually standing on this side. I don't know if you guys notice this. Sometimes it's just unconscious, like subconscious. Sorry, not unconscious. Imagine doing that unconsciously. Subconsciously, they go directly across from you. Okay, so that's why. If you're standing on this side when a gank is coming, that doesn't help because the enemy mid laner will stand on this side and your jungler just gets screwed. So what you want to do is you want to stand on the opposite side. And so the enemy mid laner will stand on the opposite side and then the Xin Zhao will just wreck him. Got it? So that's called standing on the opposite side for when your jungler is ganking. It's really important that you guys understand this. If you guys know that if you know your jungler is not ganking and he's just standing on this side doing scuttle, stand on this side for now. So you have that support in case anything goes wrong. But yeah.
The reason we do that, by the way, is because you want to put as much space between you and the enemy laner as possible to avoid damage, skill shots, etc.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's an example of just a bigger game concept. People will always try to match that movement and step into the pockets they can. You can manipulate your body language to make your opponent do something, right? And that's just this is a good example of it.
Okay, so guys, we covered up some key areas for so far. One other thing I want to talk about is using your summoner spells, right? The other day we did a VOD review of an Annie player, and he took teleport. In the first 12 minutes of the game, he didn't use his teleport. Okay? You want to make sure that you're using your ability effectively, not just using it either. Like, I'm not saying that means, just spam use your teleport. You got to use it effectively as well. So I'll tell you what that means. This Annie player, for example, he had crazy prio in the mid lane. He had crazy prio. He was absolutely shitting on their mid laner, okay? He was always like shoving in waves. He had so much control. And, his score at the end of the game was 2-2 and his team lost. And we saw his team score was like 4-10. The top laner was like 4-8, something like that. It looked like the team was losing and that, they were inting him. But in reality, when we did the VOD review, there were so many instances where, he could have TP'd to the top lane, TP'd to the bot lane, and he could have been the difference. He could have got his bot lane ahead, right? And one thing I want to show you guys really, I'm sure some of you guys may have seen this, but what you'll see a lot of supports do, and I'm sure our support coach is teaching them, is to drop a deep ward into one of these bushes here. If you're on the blue side, drop a deep ward into this bush here. So as a mid laner with TP, if you see that, their bot lane is kind of pushing in, they're trying to get turret plates or whatever, you TP onto this bush, they're screwed, right? They have no help. One thing you got to be careful of is making sure your enemy mid laner also doesn't have TP. If they're ahead and they TP and you all just lose, that's not good, right? You got to make sure that you're stronger than the enemy mid laner if you are gonna if you are both gonna TP. Otherwise, if you know that they have ignite and you're the only one with TP, use that advantage. There's a reason it's called TP advantage, right? Use that advantage and get your bot lane ahead or top lane ahead. Same thing, your top laner can drop that ward too. If they're not doing it, you can ask them. You can just ping, hey, can you drop a ward in this bush? And I'm sure they'll be able to tell what that means, okay? TP is really important. In that game we saw, there were so many opportunities where he could have TP'd bot, TP top, and he just didn't. You guys got to use your camera control. You got to look in the bot lane. You got to look in the top lane. And if there's an opportunity for you to TP, once you've shoved in your wave, which this Annie player did in that VOD, you should definitely TP, okay? It can help change the game. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about TP. I know Lil Dragon also has another comment on how you can use your TP in the early game. So Lil Dragon, if you wanted to maybe talk on that.
Yeah, sure. So this is coming as somebody who plays Annie and control mages, like I was saying. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Dopa, and he plays a lot of Twisted Fate, and Twisted Fate typically has 2 rune and summoner setups. On Twisted Fate, you typically either take Spellbook with TP or you take Electrocute with Ignite. And he has a very, very solid philosophy on when to do what, and I have a very, very similar philosophy on when I take TP. So TP can be used to get a lot of tempo, and it can be used to increase the pace of a game. It can actually be a very early game rune if you use it correctly. So what Dopa does when he's playing TP is he will take teleport into matchups where he does not have kill pressure, but matchups where he wants to find a lead by speeding the game up. So that's people like Victor, Orianna, mages, that kind of thing. He'll take teleport and he'll use his first teleport to have a trade with the enemy laner, and then teleport back to lane, and then keep their laner in the lane so you're up resources, and you can look to pressure a lead or pressure a roam with your first TP. Lanes where I would take Ignite, especially on somebody like Annie or TF, is into assassins. And it's kind of counterintuitive because you think, well, into an assassin, if I mess up, I might TP to lane, right? That's not the right thought process. Against an assassin, you need to play a little bit more back, right? So the idea behind the Ignite into the assassin is when he oversteps, when he overextends, you all in, you use your combo, and you can kill him. You have kill pressure on an assassin because they're inherently weaker, right? Where if you're playing TF, you won't get solo kills in the Victor very often, right? It's not reliable enough to take it. So you need to look towards teleport to gain an advantage in lane.
Okay.
And that's what I got.
Sorry, was there someone that was about to ask a question? No? Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the next topic then. The next thing I want to discuss with you guys is turret plating. So, okay, so one thing I see you guys doing a lot of the time is, let's say you shove in your cannon wave, right? You know the enemy mid laner is dead. Let's say you kill the enemy mid laner and you're shoving in your turret wave. There's a cannon wave and you'll try to get these plates, okay? What I see a lot of the time people doing is they'll stay up until the end until they get the plate. You don't need to do that. If you know that the plate will essentially die to these minions once you've hit it a few times, you can start actually getting an early recall off. You can start heading into this bush, for example, this area, get a recall off. You'll still get the gold. The radius for where you'll get the gold, I believe is 2,500 seconds. 2,500 2,500 seconds. The range is 2,500. Where and that's a huge range. That's like generally not that big maybe. I think it's like, yeah, my circles are bad, but you guys get the gist of it, right? You don't need to be standing at the turret.
Time with that as well?
So I know someone in the chat was saying there's a time. I have never heard of there being a time. Like I do this all the time where I'll hit the turret for a little bit, and then I'll let my minions finish off the rest, and then I'll go here and I'll get the recall, and I'll still get the gold.
Oh, that's not what the time's for. The time is so when the MR and the armor, when it doubles up, there's a time where it will go back to normal, is what he was saying.
No, I think someone was mentioning in the chat.
No. What I was
between the
You still have,
and then the last time you hit it, and then if you can get the gold still.
Yeah, but either way, guys, like my main point around this is you don't need to keep hitting the turret, even if you were to get a recall here, which is in the 1200 radius, because I think you don't need to hit it. The only time there's two ranges. 1200 is when you're not hitting it and you're just in the 1200 radius, and if you recall here, you'll still get the gold. Okay, 2500 is when you hit it, and so it's a wider range. Okay, either way, my point is, if the minions can get those plates, if you know that the minions will finish off the plates, like you know that's gonna happen, just start getting an early recall. Okay, there's no reason for you to stay till the end. You'll get the gold regardless. So that's just one thing I wanted to go over. The other thing I want to go over now is, where's my screen? Honeyfruits. Okay. A lot of people do not use honeyfruits to their advantage, so I figured it was an important thing to bring up to you guys. Honeyfruits spawn around the 6-minute mark or 6.5 minute mark. Okay, it usually varies. These are that little fruit that gives you guys healing, mana, whatever. Okay, if you do a trade with the enemy mid laner and you find yourself low, if you go into the river and just get this fruit, you'll come back full, and they'll be like, "What the hell? How is she suddenly full health?" Right? It happens. That's why honeyfruit is generally recommended. This spawns at 6 minutes to 6 minutes 30 seconds, and it respawns every 5.5 to 7 minutes after that. If a honeyfruit isn't taken before its respawn timer, a second honeyfruit may respawn. There can be no more than 2 honeyfruits that exist in half of the river, but that means there's 4 in total all across the map. Just one thing for you guys to know. Without further ado, now I'm going to bring on Harry, who's our guest speaker. So I know Harry had a few things to say as well, to talk about stuff like game plan and how you guys should react to the enemy's game plan and stuff like that. So Harry, if you want to give some advice now and share your opinion. Harry? 1 second, guys.
Wait, I was muted.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to go over the game plan aspect is because I feel like that's something that's very rarely talked about in just general in coaching, because people mostly focus on the macro and all that. This is stuff that you can do before you get in the game. So like when you're in your loading screen and everyone's picked their champions, you need to identify what every champion wants to do. Like, for example, when I talk about your gameplay, like as a mid laner, you need to identify what you want to do during the game. If you want to scale to a certain point, you need to identify what that point is and what's the fastest way to get there. And the same thing applies to all your teammates. As, for example, if you have a Lee's jungle, you need to identify that she's gonna look for ganks early to get the lead and snowball it. And then you just go through every single teammate on your team, and then you do the same for the enemy. And the reason why you do the same for the enemy is because, for example, if you're like, for example, a Nivea into a Talon is gonna look to push in the wave, and he's gonna roam. And if you know he's gonna do that, you can be prepared to punish him for it. So you can preemptively get the ward down and get the vision of where he is gonna go without actually having to react as soon as he does it. So you can prepare before he does it, because you know that is what he wants to do.
Yeah, this is a really big point, and I think whenever people ask me, what should I be doing at any given point, it tells me that they're not thinking about what Harry's talking about. Because you should know how you want to win the game, and you should know how your teammates want to win the game, and you should know how the enemy wants to win the game, and that should give you ideas. So I really like what Harry's saying here.
Yeah, and the next thing that I wanted to go over was TP versus, I would say, anything else in mid to late game. So in general, your top laner is gonna have teleport. So he should be on the opposite side of the objective. If you also have teleport, you can actually switch up and you can be on the opposite side. It doesn't really matter in that case, but if either one of you doesn't have ignite, you should be on the side that the objective is alive on. Because if you go on the other side, the enemy knows, okay, he doesn't have anything. We're just gonna go on the objective and we're gonna get it because it's gonna be a 45. And that happens very frequently, that people don't respect that they don't have TP and they just lose the objective.
Okay, fair. Was there anything else, Harry?
There was one more thing. Wait, I actually think it's best if I go into and share my screen. Let me see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it.
Alright,
Yeah.
I just need to get them.
Thing. Lux is that guy. If you want to maybe like transfer over. Awesome.
Alright, so the last thing that I was gonna go over is like the faces of the champions. Oops, I did not mean to ping that. So you see that the Anivia head is pointing in this direction. And that's because the last click I did is in this direction. And if I switch up, it's gonna move. So the mid lane, for example, if Talon is gonna roam, he clears the wave, and then he is like slightly in vision, because when the vision decays, you have like slight window of where you still see him, and if you see he's facing this way, even though he isn't really moving there, he's indicating that he's gonna go this way. And the same thing if he's moving facing this way, he's indicating he's gonna go here.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you don't actually have vision of him, and like you don't see him go there, he already indicated to you that he's gonna go there.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, cool. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask along this. All means. But Harry, did you have any other comments you'd like to make?
No, that was right.
Okay, yeah, guys. So at this time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. But I know we've been asking questions along the way, so I imagine you guys are all good. But that concludes our brief, macro coaching session on the mid lane. Hopefully you guys learned a lot and it'll help you in your games. It's really important stuff, so don't take it for granted. A lot of the stuff we covered today, I know it may look like small stuff, but it is really, really essential, especially stuff like warding, knowing where to play, how to use your teleport. All these small things, they actually make a huge difference. So yeah, make sure to incorporate them into your games. Okay. So yeah, that wraps up our session. Thanks for attending. And we'll go from
I've got questions.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So 2 questions. But first, I have a lot of trouble going against Orianna. What is the game plan against that champion? Because no matter what, I feel as though I will always get hit by that orb. I'll just get poked down and eventually poked out of the wave. For reference, I am a Ryze main. I play only Ryze. And I just, how do you survive against Orianna? What are you supposed to do? How do you dodge, so to speak?
So, yeah, the battle of that lane, she's always going to have more range than you. So you can't just sit within her range and let her poke you down. The challenge for you is going to be to kind of tether her line, and then whenever she queues, like if she ever queues the wave, if she ever uses her cooldown, and you have a cooldown advantage, that's something we talked about earlier, to last hit the minion or whatever, you have 3 or 4 seconds on her Q cooldown that you can go in and you can get a big trade. Because you'll win the extended trades against a control mage. Or against Orianna specifically, and you'll win the longer trade. So that's the goal. You'll get poked out if you let her use her extra range, but you need to find a way to work your way in and look for the all-ins.
Okay, I see. And how do you feel about Rise right now? Because if you noticed, if you guys, I'm sure you guys saw it in the list thingamajigger that was posted in resources. Rise was in the don't pick list along with Victor and some other champions that I really like to play. And
a lot of people don't like Rise, but I like him. What do you think, Eros?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that list is meant for more so people learning champions. If you're comfortable with Rise, if you're comfortable with Victor, why not play them? I think that's total BS that they say, you know, like this is a don't pick champion. We've seen several challenger players, master players, you know, that'll play like Rise only, for example, or Victor only, right? So that's not
Well,
to say
first
you
of all,
can't
I
play
think
with them.
Victor's a great pick, and I think
Yeah,
Rise
Victor.
is very, very close to being a great pick. So I think they're both fine.
Yeah, like Victor for sure, I think is great. Rise, I know why they might say don't pick. Like it may seem like he may not be good, but as long as you're comfortable with the pick, you can climb with just about anyone. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Night Blue 3. Like he's a challenger jungle, and I think he like for the most part just played Rise mid to climb, right?
I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen Eros, but this guy played Zillion mid lane. So I mean,
there you go, right? Like
all the way to Masters. Like
I'm sure if someone like I'm sure they might even tell you don't pick Zillion mid, right? Like that's probably on the do not pick list if they had to reevaluate it too. Like they're assuming Zillion's a support player. It's all about comfort. If you're comfortable with the champion, play the comfort champion. Okay, that list is more so if you're trying to learn a new champion, like what champions are like really OP and like what champions are worthwhile learning and all.
I wouldn't
like,
recommend a new player to learn Rise, but if you're comfortable on him and he makes the game make sense for you, absolutely, you can get to Masters, Grandmasters, whatever you want with it.
100%. Right?
I have a question for you. Is there any high elo Cassiopeia players that I can like look up?
So I can look this up for you if you want. It's usually really easy. Here, let me. Yeah, we can talk about this after. Yeah, so let's wrap up the thing. Give me a DM. But one way you can check this up is just look at op.gg. Look at the champion mastery. Like see who has like the highest. Go to leagueofgraphs.com as another example. Sorry, and you can look up who the best Cassiopeias are in North America.
Who's asking that question?
Me, the big Matty.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
So go to leagueofgraphs.com, look up champion tier list. Sorry, not champion tier list. Look at like champion rankings and see who the best Cassiopeia are, for example, in North America. And a lot of them might actually be Twitch streamers, so it might be worthwhile to like watch a game of theirs and see how exactly they play that matchup. I know we have a lot of Anivia players, for example, in this chat, and so they watched. I highly recommended them to watch Harry's gameplay. Harry usually plays Anivia in Challenger when he goes mid, and we learned a lot the other day when we were doing his VOD review. So. Good stuff.
Another thing I would do is just go into YouTube and literally type Challenger Cassiopeia VOD or Challenger whatever champion you want VOD, and you'll get the best players of that champion in the world VOD. So I googled it, and there's a Challenger EOS player right here from last patch. It'd be a great match to watch.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's Zillion, like don't look at Bjergsen's gameplay. You might want to look at Eros Zillion. other than that, you should look for the challenger players. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna conclude the Q&A now. Hopefully you guys did learn quite a bit from this session. If you appreciated it, great. Let us know in the chat. If there's anything you have in terms of feedback, let us know in the chat. Again, this bootcamp is going to August 6th, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us all week long. Cool. Thank you.